So everybody who has an uncomplicated medical history starts with a midwife, and it's basic care, so you don't pay for a midwife. Around 7 weeks is your first checkup, 7, 8 weeks. We guide you as a midwife all through the pregnancy, and then we do the delivery wherever you want it. So we can do it at home or we can do it in the hospital for you. And if there in that period is any need of a gynecologist because you need medication for high blood pressure, or the growth of your baby's not doing well, or you have any other medical problems, then the gynecologist comes in and takes over.
Hey guys, my name is Shayla. Welcome to the Hey Shayla Podcast. I went from full-time travel to full-time new COVID mom, and now I'm a mom of 2. And holy wow, is motherhood and adulting a learning curve. There are so many decisions we need to make and a million ways to do it right. I created this podcast to interview some of my gurus to share their knowledge and empower you on your journey. Let me be your guinea pig and ask the questions you think everyone else knows. Here, we're a little hippie. We try to do things as naturally as possible. We're open-minded, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. But above all, we support one another and work to find what works. If you're into it, you're our people. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hey Shayla Podcast. Today I have Dajanfia, who is a midwife in the Netherlands with her own practice. She also has a YouTube channel and an Instagram account for expectant parents. A few people sent me your way when I was... Well, first of all, thank you for being on the podcast. I'm really excited to chat with you.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes. And I want you to say your YouTube channel and your Instagram handle because I cannot pronounce it properly.
Yes. It's also hard in Dutch, so not entirely your fault. Well, my first name is Dajanfia, and my handle at Instagram is also my first name, Dajanfia_verlosmoeder. So it's like...
it'll all be in the show notes. Don't even...
Midwifery mom in Dutch.
It's called what? Oh, midwifery mom?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That's the translation.
Yeah. Very cool. So we were originally going to record this when I was pregnant, preparing for postpartum. Then I think I was sick that day or something. I was looking through the emails and I was like, pregnancy's got me going. And now here we are. And this time you're pregnant, right?
Yes, I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So exciting. So I was excited and I'm still excited to talk to you about postpartum care because in the US, it's pretty much you have to seek it out yourself or it's kind of non-existent. Where there, I feel like it's standard.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So let's start with you. I always like to start with you. So kind of tell me how you got into this work, where you just tell me about you and how you got into it. And then we'll go into kind of what postpartum looks like.
Yeah, well, I've been a midwife for about 8 years and I run a practice here in Holland with 2 other midwives. And it all started actually because of an American TV show. You had Grey's Anatomy and then you had a spin-off called Private Practice.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with the OBGYN, and that was the first time I heard about the job midwife. So then I tried to research if it even existed here and what the qualifications were. So when I saw I think I saw that in about a week. I applied for night school because I had a full-time job then because I was 23 years old.
Yeah. And what were you doing?
I was working in like a big store where they sell electrical equipment for washing machines, computers, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the night shifts to get the application to apply to the midwifery college. And I started it immediately that year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You're just like, yep, this is what I want. And had you ever like seen a birth done, worked with pregnant women?
Never.
No.
It just clicked. I was like, this is what I need to do.
What?
So, and from that moment, I just started Googling birth videos and everything surrounding birth. And it's been my passion since.
That is so amazing. So what is I don't even know what it looks like in the United States. What does it take to become a midwife?
It takes 4 years of college.
Yeah.
And then you are, we say, the basic
Yep.
midwife.
Yeah.
And then you can study on to become ultrasound specialist, do IUDs.
Mm-hmm.
We also place IUDs as a
Mm-hmm.
midwife. And you have the possibility to do a master for 2 more years, and then you can work as a clinical midwife in the hospital.
Okay. Wow. So with the 4-year, you can do home births?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, because we in the Netherlands we have a two-way system. So everybody who has an uncomplicated medical history starts with a midwife.
Oh, really?
Yeah, starts with
Standard.
standard midwife, and it's basic care. So you don't pay for a midwife. You just apply when you have a
Pregnancy.
positive pregnancy test. Around 7 weeks is your first checkup, 7, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we guide you as a midwife all through the pregnancy. So you come to consults, and then we do the delivery wherever you want it. So we can do it at home, or we can do it in the hospital for you.
Okay.
And if there in that period is any need of a gynecologist because you need medication for high blood pressure, or the growth of your baby is not doing well, or you have any other medical problems, then the gynecologist comes in and takes over.
What? Do you know much about how it is here?
The only thing I know is that you have the OBGYN and they do everything.
Yeah.
And they let you go after the birth. But the midwife, as soon as you give birth, even if you are medically induced or have any medical problems, we get you back from the gynecologist to do your postpartum care. So I'm around for like almost a year.
Oh, right. Because 9 months of pregnancy and then 4 months of postpartum. Or what is that? Yeah. That's 3 months, whatever it is. Okay. So here, if you're going to a midwife, it's like, oh, you have a midwife? Oh, are you doing a home birth? Are you birthing in a birth center? What?
Yeah.
What? It's like kind of like the more hippie granola people get this midwife or like, why do you have a midwife? What is that? People don't even know what it is sometimes. And it's like, I don't even know how to necessarily tell you the difference, because I remember telling my midwife, like, I want a midwife because I like that they're more natural, they're more whatever. And she's like, I wouldn't say that I'm that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. She's like, I just feel like it's I don't even know. I don't even remember what she said, but she was just like, I don't feel like I'm all hippie and whatever. I just think that this is the way to do it. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. That's so interesting that automatically. So then if they get handed over to an OBGYN, is it just to get like the prescription for high blood pressure and you still manage them, or they are then transferred care until after?
So about 85% starts with the midwife here in the Netherlands, because you have people who have like type 1 diabetes or thyroid problems. They automatically start at the gynecologist. And then we have a switch during the pregnancy, pregnancy complications. And for the first time mothers, about 65% up until the birth stay with their midwife.
Right.
So we join them to the birth, and sometimes during the birth, because of pain medication, anything medical, the doctor usually takes over. So if you ask for the epidural, then the gynecologist takes over, and then your midwife has to step back.
Okay. And like go home?
It depends, because we as midwives do get paid for the delivery, because sometimes, as you can understand, a birth is very long. So we come to your home, and sometimes we're there for like 8 hours, and then the gynecologist comes and does their medical thing, and in 2 hours the birth is over. So the insurance company just gives us one fixed amount for the birth, no matter how long it is.
Got it.
And some midwives feel that they can go home, and other midwives are like, okay, call me back when you are done sleeping, because some people sleep when they have the epidural. And if it's for the last part, which is most of the time with pain medication, just the last part of the birth, we stay.
Okay. So if you're birthing at home and you want an epidural, then you need to move to the hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's the main reason why we have to shift from midwife to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Yeah. Would you say, are most people using an epidural?
I think the rates in the Netherlands are quite lower than it is
Yeah, I'm sure.
in America,
Yeah.
because here it's more you try until you can't anymore, and then you have the epidural. And yeah, all I see is like the vlogs and the television from what you have in America.
Yeah.
But there I see that a lot of women choose to have an epidural before they even go into labor. And that's quite rare here.
Yeah. Or just as it's starting, they're like, okay, I'm ready. Or when they arrive. Yeah. Oh, what was I going to ask about that? So what kind of things do you do to prepare? Because from my experience with my labor and deliveries, I feel like I needed a lot of preparation in order to do it without the epidural. So do you like prep them for the mental work or the physical work, or what kind of prep work are you doing during pregnancy?
So we see the women the last month before the due date every week, and then the month before every 2 weeks. So we see them quite often. So we talk about about the birth within our consults. Most of the practices also have like a workshop or an evening where they go through the whole plan of how a birth is supposed to go. And you have like schooling. I don't know how to say courses in English.
Courses.
Courses.
Yeah.
So you have different type of courses, of course, you can buy who can teach you breathing techniques. But I think the most helpful is that when you start your labor at home, everybody starts their labor at home, especially when you're with the midwife. Then we come to your home first before you go to the hospital if you want to have a hospital birth or any home birth. And then we guide you actually from a centimeter or 3-4 up until the end. So we don't leave in between. So most of the time when somebody hasn't done a course, we help them teach the breathing throughout the delivery and help them with anything we have.
Would you say, because I feel like in America, the idea is as soon as you start going to labor, you're going to be screaming, you're going to be in pain, you're going to be like hysterical. Is that what you're seeing with the general person in labor?
No, those are the people who are like really in panic mode, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's rare that we have that. I think in the past, I guide about 300 births in my practice a year.
Wow.
And
300?
Yeah, with 2 other midwives.
Okay. But that's still like one every other day.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
over 4 midwives, sorry.
Okay,
we have
but
2 other owners. Yeah.
At least like once a week-ish, depending on when. That's wild.
Least, yeah, for a midwife on its own, once a week.
Wow.
And I think, wait, I have to go back to the question. Prego brain. I have to go back to the question. What was the question?
Their demeanor.
Yeah. So I don't. I rarely have somebody who's fully in panic mode, because they trust you. And if you trust somebody and who's been there with you for hours, I hold their hands, I take them to the shower, I'll help them breathe through. It's hardly time to panic.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was anticipating, but I was just curious if the overall,
it's a wrong image of how birth is.
Yes, but that's what we see, and so that's what we assume. And so I just wondered if it was just a little bit different, where it was people didn't think immediately. Like, people often will go to the hospital as soon as they start contracting here, because they think that they're in labor and they're going, and then they get sent home.
Yeah, that's crazy for us. That in a lot of vlogs I see, oh, my water broke, I have to go to the hospital. In the Netherlands, we wait. So it's like, my water broke, And as a midwife, we're like, don't call us in the night until you have contractions. We'll see you
Mm-hmm.
in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just stay at home, go back to sleep because
Right.
it's gonna come on expectedly during the day again.
Yeah.
So it's a very expective way of how the birth is gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see from images in America is like immediately, okay.
Yes.
But that also immediately rises the adrenaline
Totally.
about having a baby.
Absolutely. I agree. So you are helping. How many ultrasounds are you doing throughout the pregnancy?
We have 2 regular ultrasounds that we do for everybody. So that's
Initial.
to estimate the due date.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in the first trimester. Then we have the 13 weeks ultrasound, but that's optional. So you can choose if you want it or not.
Yeah.
That's to screen the baby for their physical health. And the 20 weeks ultrasound, that's also for the physical health. And we don't do growth ultrasounds standardly. That means that you only get ultrasound for the growth of the baby in the 3rd trimester when you have an indication for it. So if you have like a higher BMI or lower BMI, or if you smoke, or if you have a lot of stress, or if you use any type of medication, because we've done a big study here in the Holland, and we've seen that if you do a growth ultrasound with somebody who doesn't have a medical indication, that we see more inductions and more C-sections, but not healthier babies.
Oh, wow. So it just creates a panic that doesn't need to happen. Yeah.
It's harmful. So we don't do that.
Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah, because a lot of the times for myself and other people that I know, they start getting information that's like, well, it seems kind of like this. And you're like, what? What? And now you're panicking that your baby's got this thing that
and you have to wait like 2-3 weeks, and then the
Yes.
next scan says, oh no, it's not.
Yes.
And then the next scan says, oh, maybe, but it is and maybe it's big. Yeah.
Yes. And then, where I like that it's like, we're just going to trust the process. We're just going to.
You measure the belly.
Yeah.
So
fundal height, right?
Yes, the fundal height with the centimeters and the palpation.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's any type of indication that it's growing too fast or too small, we also do an ultrasound to check that up.
Yeah.
So it's more of a combined system.
Yeah.
But if you are healthy and don't use any medication or whatsoever, then your last ultrasound is at 20 weeks.
Okay. Do you do it if you're going over?
If you, in the Netherlands, we have, if you are 41 weeks, so 1 week after your due date, that's the first time you have the option to get induced, because before that we don't induce at all. Only if you have a medical explanation as to why, because we believe that induction is an intervention that could be harmful if it's in a normal pregnancy. So at 40 and so if you get induced at 41 weeks, there's no ultrasound. And if you want to wait until 42 weeks, then you get an ultrasound and a CTG, like the heartbeat monitor of the baby, in that week to see if it's safe for you to wait until the next week.
43 weeks?
No, from 41 to 42.
Got it. So you're either going to start getting induced.
42 weeks, we give the advice to get induced.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering that too. Yeah. Okay. So I think the ultrasounds are similar. Ours is like, you do it to find out how far along you are, 20-week scan just to like check all the things. And then at like 41, if you're going over. That was me. I was 41 and we scheduled my 41 week and then I gave birth the next day.
Yeah.
But she's like, we'll just schedule it in case you make it to 41. I was like, okay, cool. All right, we're going to take a brief break and talk about nursing and pumping bras. Kindred Bravely. It took me a long time to get a nursing bra because I was like, this is dumb. I don't really need this. And I use them like half the time. But if you are somebody that needs a pumping bra or a nursing bra, I love the Sublime Sports Bra. I work out in it. I love it. They also have pajamas. They have joggers. They have all sorts of like maternity and postpartum things that you want. If you're interested, go to heyshayla.com/kindredbravelypod. I have a discount code HeyShayla15. Normally my codes are just Hey Shayla, but this one's Hey Shayla 15. And if the codes ever don't work, go to heyshayla.com/codes to see the updated one. Let's get back to the show. So then with delivery, what kind of, I've never even like, both of mine were unmedicated, but they were in a hospital. Cause to me, that's where I felt the safest. I was like, okay, I trust everything that's happening, but if something goes awry, I want to be where I need to be.
Yeah.
But in a home birth, what kind of things do you need to, what do you, I mean, are you doing it on a bed? Do you need to lay down a sheet? Like, how exactly does that work?
So everybody gets a package sent to their home.
Okay.
And it depends on how well you are insured, if you have to pay a little bit for the package, or if you have a very good insurance, then the package is just sent to your home.
Mm-hmm.
And it contains like plastic sealing for your mattress.
Okay.
Contains like the pads that you use on the bed to soak up amniotic fluids.
Yeah.
And also gauzes, everything you need for a home birth, basically. A cord
cutter, yeah.
Cord
clamper, yeah.
Clamper, that's what
yeah.
I do. So that's what you get at home. But your midwife is actually the one who brings all her stuff with her. So I travel always with a suitcase. Every midwife does. And we are on 24 hours on call.
Yeah.
And we travel with oxygen. We travel with medication to help stop bleeding. We travel with an IV. So we are skilled yearly. We have to. We are obligated to do a yearly training to do all the emergency medical things. So we do place IVs, we do give medications, we do get to stop any problems at home or start a resuscitation at home.
Mm-hmm.
But 0.06% has resuscitation starts at home. And in the Netherlands, almost every hospital is like 15 minutes away.
Okay.
I live in a big city, so it's like 3 hospitals in a range of 15 minutes.
So then would you drive them or call the ambulance?
It depends on the situation, because most of the time when you do a home birth, if you have to go to the hospital, it's not an emergency situation. About 5% is an emergency situation. And then if we talk about the non-emergency situation, it's like when the baby has pooped in the amniotic water, we go preventively to the hospital. If you want pain medication, we go to the hospital. If you are decreasing in dilation, we go to the hospital. So there are a lot of filtering during the birth, which can indicate that something's going wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you preventatively go instead of wait until there's an emergency.
Yes. Yeah. So we call ourselves the gatekeepers of the normal birth.
Yeah.
Because only the low risk normal birth normally is at home. And that's how we keep it as safe as possible. And then you have the emergency situation is most of the time is, I think, blood loss is on the first part. While we put an IV in, we give you medication to stop it. And we can bridge the 20 to 30 minutes necessary to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So then the ambulance comes and takes you to the hospital. We go with you. But yeah, we did a big research also here to see if it's safer in the hospital or safer at home. And it came out as equal. It's just as safe. So there are no more babies that die at home or no more babies that die in the hospital. The only difference is that in the hospital, you have more interventions than that you have at home.
Okay. So would you say that an OBGYN is going to, well, yeah, because if you're with an OB, you probably are potentially induced sooner because you have
more medical things going on.
Yeah.
So it's quite normal that more things will happen to you in the hospital.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Would you say, so would a high risk be like breech or twins? Both of those exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
both of those are. So I don't guide those as a midwife. You do have midwives who stray off the regular protocols
Mm-hmm.
and do those deliveries at home, but
Okay.
it's not recommended here.
Got it. When you said the dilation goes down, what is that? What normally causes that?
Um, I don't mean down, but it's sometimes you have
Or like they
um
don't progress.
yeah, they don't
They're not
progress.
continuing to open.
Yeah, and
Got it.
sometimes you have when somebody doesn't progress but has the urge to push when the
Mm,
baby's like flipped upside down with their head in the posterior position. Then you have a lot of pressure on your cervix, which causes it to swell. And
oh,
when it
wow.
swells, the centimeters go down again.
Ah, oh, wow. Interesting. And then have you ever heard, do you can like do placenta encapsulation?
I don't do it, as
Okay.
in there's no midwife who does that, I think,
Okay.
here. But you do have like postpartum specialists who provide those services.
Okay. Is that kind of an unusual thing?
Common? No,
It's not common.
no.
No. I read because I encapsulated my placenta because okay, I got so many questions. Do you have doulas there?
We do, but not as much as I think you guys do.
No, yeah.
Yeah, because you do have the midwife, so I
Right.
don't think a lot of people need it. The people who usually have a doula are the people who are well financed, because
Okay.
it's quite you have to pay for a doula out of pocket.
Got it. And would you say more people who have OBs have doulas?
I think so, because in the hospital it is very different. You have about one doctor every 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms. So
Okay.
you are quite left alone quite a lot
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
that you are with your midwife. So
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, I bet that's similar to the US because with my midwife had a flat tire and so she didn't show up. Yeah.
that's impossible here.
That's what I'm saying. My friend was like, does she not have Uber or like
Yeah,
any?
we are required to have a backup system.
Yeah.
So
So
if I can't go because I just had an accident, I have to call my colleague and she has to be there within 30
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but she had a flat tire regardless. And so I was then with an OB who I had never met, but it ended up being perfect for me because I was doing hypnobabies. So I was like in this like hypnosis. And so I didn't really want to be bothered anyway. I was just kind of like moving and grooving. Yeah. And then at the very end, of course, like 5 people come in, the nurse and the midwife and the whatever. And I'm like in between pushes, just being like, I don't want an episiotomy. And she's like, I'm not going to do it unless it's an emergency. I'm like, don't give me Pitocin after. And she's like, unless you're bleeding, I won't give you Pitocin. So I'm like telling her all my birth requests,
Yeah.
but she was super great. Like afterwards, she was like, okay, you're still bleeding a little bit. Do you mind if I give you some Pitocin? And I was like, thank you for asking. Sure. And so it ended up being okay. But I assumed, I was like, they must just think I'm a wacko for doing this hypnobirthing. And that's why they left me alone. But I bet it was that. I bet there was a OB for a bunch of
Every
rooms.
5 rooms. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Interesting.
they
Well,
come every 2 hours to
yeah.
maybe
Yep.
check you and then they
Yeah,
leave again.
totally. And then when you're with a midwife for like your appointments, how long are they typically?
Your first appointment is about an hour,
Okay.
and it depends how big your practice is because you have large midwife practices, and then your consult might be between 10 to 20 minutes,
Okay.
quite short. But if you are with like a caseloader, we call them, so you have one midwife for every patient. The consults are maybe a half an hour or an hour each.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like it's similar-ish here that it
And
kind
it
of
depends
varies.
also if you have an ultrasound, it's of course
Right.
longer.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so okay, so we did kind of the pregnancy, delivery. Tell me about the postpartum. What
Yeah.
is that like?
Okay. So when if you deliver at home, then your midwife will stay 2 hours after you had the baby,
Mm-hmm.
to just basically get the baby checked, get you tea, have
Tea.
something to eat. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we always do tea and like a type of biscuits
Okay.
with pink for girls and blue for boys.
Oh, funny. I love it. What kind of
Yeah.
tea?
It depends.
Whatever. Okay. There's not like a postpartum tea or something. Okay.
No. So we stay until 2 hours, and the kraamzorg, it's like a nurse, a postpartum nurse. She stays up until I think the first after the delivery, maybe 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
And they come every day for 8 days. If you have a C-section or if there's any breastfeeding problems or any problems during the postpartum period, they can stay up until 10 days after the delivery. And you get that partially covered. It depends also on how your insurance is, but you only pay like €4 an hour for the nurse.
What? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yes. And then the midwife comes by every other day to just check up, to see how you're doing, to try to get you going if you are breastfeeding, to make a plan. When are you starting to pump? That sort of things. How are you recovering? So you get the basic is about 49 hours for 8 days. And you can choose if you want those 49, and the minimum is, I believe, 24 hours. So you at least 3 hours a day. A nurse will come to your home, help you bathe the baby, help you teach you how to do everything.
Okay. Let me re-say this to you so I understand. So midwife stays for 2 hours ish after the birth. Nurse comes and stays for, or nurse is there probably.
The nurse is helping us with the home birth.
Okay. And then stays for like 3 to 4 hours.
But if you deliver in the hospital, then you go home and then the nurse will
come to your house.
Oh,
okay. That's amazing. If you deliver in the hospital, how long are you in the hospital for?
Exactly the same amount of time. So 2 to 3 hours after the birth. And then you can go home if you have a nurse at home.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you deliver in the night, then you'll stay for the morning. And then you call, hey, I'm going home. And then the nurse will come and meet you at your home so that you can have guidance with the baby.
I'm pretty sure we have a 24-hour in ours because I think I delivered at like, I don't know, in the wee hours of the morning. And then I didn't leave till I stayed the full 24 hours. And then it was like, whatever. I should remember what time my daughter was born, but I do not remember it. 6 o'clock something. And then it was 6 a.m. So they're like, well, wait till the person comes on in the morning and can give you all the discharge stuff. And then I think we left in the afternoon. So it was like.
And what are you supposed to do then?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Sleep. I don't know.
Here's just a brand new baby.
And the reason, yeah, exactly. And you always kind of feel like you're taking this baby, like you shouldn't be taking this baby home. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is
felt when I went home and I was like waiting for the nurse to come, like, okay,
help me.
What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. So then for 8 days, you're getting checked in on every single day. The nurse comes every day. The midwife comes every other day. Yes. Right. And they're going to be there for at least 3 hours a day.
Yeah. The nurse stays for the most time.
Yeah.
And the midwife stays about, it depends, an hour maybe. Okay. To just talk about how your recovery is. We give you tips. We sometimes, you have to see us, the midwife is like the manager of the postpartum period. Yeah. And the nurse is the one who does the daily things. Yeah. They teach you how to make bottles, how to sterilize everything, how to change a baby, how to deal with cramps, how to deal with everything that happens in those first few days.
And it feels like it's very much focused on the mom as opposed to focused on the baby.
It's both. Okay. So we do the checkups with the mom and we do the checkups with the baby.
Okay. And you're weighing it.
What we try to do in the first 8 days, we try to prepare you to be a parent.
Yeah.
After those 8 days, we can leave and we feel good about how the daily ritual is going.
Right. And are most women breastfeeding?
Most women start breastfeeding here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but it's typical for people to breastfeed unless they have complications?
Yeah, there has been a movement more that start with bottle feeding. But I think about 80% starts with breastfeeding,
Okay. Interesting.
or at least tries. And
Right.
and some already stop in the first week. And the most part goes on a few months. And at 6 months, it goes down really fast.
Oh, really? 6 months is kind of like where people stop?
Yeah, it's the killing, because then we have 16 weeks of pregnancy leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, maternity leave.
Yeah.
So that's around the time that you start working again. And we have like breastfeeding protection laws here in the Netherlands. So that means that your employer has to give you a certain amount of time during the day to breastfeed or pump.
Mm-hmm.
And that stops also at 6 months, I believe. So I think that also plays a big part.
Yeah, totally. So your leave is about 6 months.
It's 4 months in total.
Okay, 4 months. But then the breastfeeding protection ends around 6.
Yeah.
Got it. Wow. So then would you say a lot of people pump and store their milk?
I think a lot of people stop when they have to go to work.
Yeah.
Because they think it's a hassle.
Totally.
Yeah, I think a lot of people stop. But I think if we compare it to other countries, we have a higher rate.
Yeah, I believe that. Well, yeah, because our maternity leave is like, I don't know, 12
Non-existent.
weeks. Yeah. Yeah, maybe 12 weeks. Yeah. But then I feel like a lot of people do continue to pump because it's so early. And so they just kind of like develop that schedule. And I think breastfeeding and pumping is, I don't know, because I don't go to a real job.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not totally sure what everything is. And like the few friends that I have might be outliers. I don't know. So that's interesting about that. But so they're coming and they're teaching you about breastfeeding. They're teaching you just all the things that you have known. Is it different for second time parents? I would imagine.
No.
No.
Yeah, you can choose to have less hours, but that's by choice.
Right. And are you like cooking for them or doing any like housework?
I don't.
Right. As a midwife.
But the nurse, she does make sure that you get breakfast, make sure you get lunch. It used to be that they cooked in the evening, but
Yeah.
that's old school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what they do is like they clean the toilets every day, and they mop the floors, and they vacuum the floors also.
What?
They don't do big, like won't scrub your windows or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
The things that you know, when you have postpartum bleeding and everything, we
Right.
like to keep it as clean as possible. So the
Totally.
nurse's job is to take care of the home as well.
Uh-huh. Wow. And at what point does the baby get handed off to like a pediatrician, or not handed off, but what time do you? Yeah.
So we it doesn't.
Okay.
Because we have everything's like set in
Yeah.
period of time. So the midwife has them for the first around 8 days, 10 days for the postpartum week. And then immediately when we finish, then the nurses from the, how do you call it? It's not a pediatrician, because it's just the general practitioner
Yep.
system.
Yep.
They will come to your home and do the first checkup at home. So you get a hearing test, and they weigh the baby. And that's the place where you stay up until like 18 years, get the vaccinations and everything. And I think the first vaccination is at 2 months old, or at 3 months old if you had the pregnancy vaccination.
Okay.
Here in Holland. But it starts like exactly when we cut off. And the midwife stays until 6 weeks after the birth, the primary caregiver.
Okay. When do they, so are you going, they're not coming to the house, the general practitioner?
One time.
Okay. Like a week postpartum?
Yeah, like between the 10 and the 14 days.
And that's when they do the hearing test and all the testing.
Yeah.
Wow. So when my second daughter was born, she failed all of her hearing tests like twice. And so we were like, can she hear? I don't know. And so for 2 months, we were left not knowing. until we had to schedule a specialty hearing exam with a eye, nose, and ear doctor, and had to go in for that test, and she was fine. But I think this is my very educated assumption of what happened, but my water broke like 2 pushes before she came out. And so I assumed that her ears were wet. And so they weren't, that's what they said. Sometimes if the like ear cilia or whatever is wet, then it doesn't respond properly and they can fail.
Yeah, so we say you can't bathe the baby 24 hours before the hearing test.
Yeah.
So we prepare you for that.
Yeah. And a week later, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's at least a week, between the 10 and the 14 days before we do the hearing test.
And why do you have pediatricians, or it just
it's the same. If there's anything medically wrong with the baby's health, then you get sent to the pediatrician. But we have just general doctors who just specialize on this part and do this part.
Okay, so
if you have a really preterm birth, especially, then you go to the pediatrician.
Okay, so the pediatrician is almost like a specialty doctor for, but the general practice is for children. They're just not called pedi. Okay.
Yeah.
Wild. I think the same as in Australia. I was talking to a guy in Australia. He's like, yeah. And then like the kids doctors, they tell you to put them in these shoes. And I was like, what about the pediatricians? They're like, no, pediatricians are like, if there's a problem or you need to get something solved. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. No, so it's a real specialty for what you said, for babies up until 18 years old. And it's also basic care, so you don't pay for it.
That's up until 18 years?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Until 18 years, you don't pay for medical bills for your child.
And what's the vaccine that they get at 2 to 3 months?
It's for tetanus, hepatitis B.
DTaP, I think.
Yeah, it's called Kinkhoest, but I don't know how to say it.
I think it's DTaP because that's the one that's like all combined.
Yeah,
and I think you can also get that during your pregnancy as well.
Yes.
I don't know. Once I'm okay.
So that you get at 2 months, 3 months, probably 5 months, and 11 months.
Is that the only thing? I don't want to get into it. Vaccines are so controversial, but is that the only thing that you do, or are there a few of them in childhood?
I don't give the vaccines,
right?
But in the first year, you get the 4 vaccines, and after the first year, it gets less and less.
Okay, yeah, not the same here, but like I said, I do not want to go down that road. No. Okay, we're going to take a brief break to talk about Expecting and Empowered. If you follow me anywhere, you know that I love Expecting and Empowered. It's a pregnancy and postpartum workout. It's a week-by-week guide for what is safe and what you should be doing to prepare for labor and then repair from labor. It's pelvic floor, it's exercises, it's core, it's stretching, it's mindless. So if you're like, well, I kind of feel like I should stay in shape. If you don't work out or you do work out, this is such a good guide for this time of your life, just to know what is good to do. I have a code, Hey Shayla. If you go to heyshayla.com/expecting and empowered pod, that will get you there. If my codes ever don't work, you can always just go to heyshayla.com/codes. Let's get back to the show. Okay. So knowing kind of what you know, just from this conversation of what it's like in America, what are some things that you would like recommend or suggest to us for how to prepare and how to, I'm going to ask a different question first. Sorry. Do you see a lot of postpartum depression or anxiety?
No, because postpartum depression usually develops after 2 weeks of having continuous complaints. So we see them first see them every other day. And then there's a gap of a few weeks until the 6 weeks checkup.
Okay.
And at the 6 weeks checkup, we sometimes see postpartum depression. And I think we have around 11 to 12% of the new moms who have a postpartum depression.
Okay.
But I don't see it in my practice as much.
Okay.
We do have ladies who had it before, and then we have extra guidance during the pregnancy and in the postpartum period.
Totally. And are you at that 6 week appointment? Are you going to their house or are you going into clinic?
They're going into the clinic.
Okay. I guess I'm asking that because I wonder if you were to go into their house, if you would get a different vibe of what's
I
actually
think
going on.
so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's kind of a gap that's missing in the postpartum care in the Netherlands, that you have a gap in the most vulnerable time because everybody leaves at the 2 weeks mark, basically,
Yeah.
from your home at least,
Right.
when you're at your most vulnerable.
Yeah. Hormones are going wild. You're trying to figure out this whole thing. Totally. Okay. Okay. Then back to the question that I was about to ask. So what would you recommend for like people in the US who don't necessarily have this attention on moms during pregnancy and
I think
postpartum?
it's good to know if you educate yourself on what's normal in the progression of how your bleeding is supposed to go. What can you expect with breastfeeding? Because the expectations are sometimes completely off of what reality might be. And I think the nurse can also be a good friend. So you don't have to have somebody specialized or trained for it. If you have somebody who can just help you, who has experience with babies. So if it's a friend, a sister, a family member who just comes by. So I would use my network more to have them try to have a little bit of a schedule around who's coming, and not just coming because they want to see the baby or hold the baby, really coming to do the basic care.
I think that's great advice. I think that's a really good idea to kind of schedule that. And I think that that's hard too, because it's a big ask right. And you're like, how do I ask this? And I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. But if I would ask you to go to your friend's house and bring over food, it's a normal ask.
Totally.
So if you just divide it and not make it a big thing for you to be like, I need you to be my nurse for one day.
Yeah.
But just somebody who you can call with questions like, okay, I can't have my baby on my breast. What do I do now? Or can you help me do some groceries? Can you come over and bring something for dinner? That will help a lot, a lot. And I think education is the most important thing. If you know what's normal, you'll get more of a confidence about how you're parenting.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think I'm trying to think of a tangible way to actually do it, because I think that that's exactly what is missing, is just like that support. That's not just like, let me hold the baby. And you're like, I'm bleeding and really tired and I just need some help here. Not for you to just see my cute baby. So I think when you're pregnant, what you just said, like coming up with a list of people, like, okay, my sister could help me because she's had a baby. My mom could come over with my favorite meal that she knows that I love. And then asking for those specific things, like, Mom, do you mind coming over like a couple days after and bringing my favorite meal? That would be amazing. And kind of like a very specific ask, instead of just like, hey, could you maybe stop by in a week post, but like,
help me?
Yes, exactly. Can you stop by? I know this is going to be tough.
Specific questions, everybody wants to help. If you ask, we always say, try to think about your postpartum before birth, because after birth, it's all blurry and messy and very emotional. So try to schedule it before. And we also have a lot of single parents who go through this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we say, okay, well, who are your people surrounding you? And okay, try to think, what do you have as meal prep at home, and how many days can you have that? And okay, so if you're missing 3 days and you have 5 friends, okay, you can ask one friend each to just one time bring a meal. And if you have a mom, you just ask one time, can you help me with 1 hour of just vacuuming? Just little stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think you're totally right with doing it during pregnancy, because when you're hormonal and like tired, the thought of writing a text for help is like too much.
It's too much.
It's easier just to struggle through it yourself than to ask for someone. Yeah.
Make a postpartum plan.
Yeah. But you
Or
don't think about that. You're just like, I'm going to be a mom and I'm going to have this baby and they're going to breastfeed or they're not or whatever. And like, I feel like as first time mom, you have no idea what's coming. And
no,
and I think you just need that support that you are not even
yeah,
aware.
and you need to find resources to see, okay, where can I find if I have problems with breastfeeding? Where do I find knowledge about bottle feeding? And don't leave that for the postpartum period.
Yes, totally. So during pregnancy, because a big thing that's getting popular here in the States is like meals that get delivered to your house. So if you're really like, I live in a different state than everybody, I'm new here, whatever. Like we did that for a month or two postpartum because it was like, I don't have to think about anything. The meals are coming to me. I didn't even do like the home chef where you have to like cook it. It was like cooked. I needed to warm it up. And it was the best thing that I could have done because that was one thing off of both of our plates.
Yeah.
And so, and then I'm just trying to think of resources that I have. So I know that in the States, we also have something called, I think it's just mealtrain.com, and you can set it up and people can sign up on your calendar for like when they're going to bring a meal or when they're going to send you a gift card for a delivery or whatever. And that's super helpful. And my hypnobabies course that I took has the audio for like the actual labor and delivery, but it has an entire course about like, here are some things that could happen during labor and delivery. This is normal. This is not. And I think you're right. Just having the confidence to be like, I know this is okay. Or like, this is
Maybe
something.
just cry the first night. And
yeah. Well, this is mostly for labor and delivery for like when you're doing, it doesn't, I don't really know anything about postpartum.
Well, I made, but it's in Dutch. But I made for people who don't have, some people just want the basic care because financially €4 is still €4 for somebody. It might be too much. So I made videos for people who don't have the money to have. But I believe there's many people that are vlogging in America also who teach you about the first few days. So I have a video about the first few days, what happens to the mom, the first few days, what happens to the baby, how to get your milk production up, how to start with treating the cramps of the baby, all those type of videos.
No, I think you're right. Built to Birth is one that's here in the United States. She does a really good job.
Richard Taylor?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. She's great. I think she's a doula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a lot. Fortunately, we live in an era where we have a lot of free online access. Just try to educate yourself as much as possible as you can and try to lean on the people who have the experience. Yes. I always say, they're not experts, as in you have to follow their guidelines, but just somebody who can be a listening ear.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's great advice. I love that. Thank you. I think that we've covered everything. And I was going to ask you, like, when did you start sharing social media? And it sounds like you did it just for people who either want the information or couldn't afford the information.
Yeah, I started it's my Corona baby.
Yeah.
So I started it when Corona happened.
Yeah.
So 2020. And it was partially because I had less time. Because of the lockdowns, we had full restrictions at how much physical time we could have with our patients.
Yeah.
So I wanted to prepare everybody, and I was like, you had a lot of people who started selling online courses, and was getting quite upset with that because my practice is situated in an area where there's not a lot of money. And I have the access to everything, but not everybody does. And that's the reason why I just put everything online. So it starts from how to breathe through birth, how to get pregnant until 1-year-old baby.
I love that so much. I wonder if you could do subtitles in English for your videos.
I could, I think.
No, not you, but I think YouTube might have a feature. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You could try.
Right. Yeah. I actually think I have a fair amount of people from the Netherlands that listen to my podcast. So if you're there, they can find you.
I hope they know me.
Yeah, right. Okay, well I feel like that's everything. This was so enlightening and so interesting. And I love the tips I think it's interesting just to see what other countries do, but I also think it's really great the advice that you gave for people in the States who don't necessarily have that resource or in anywhere really.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please share with somebody you think would love. And I would be so honored if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a comment and rating below so I can know what you guys are digging, what you want more of, just connect with you a little better. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.